my lovelies, and welcome back to my channel. I am Miss Teacher, and today's video is going to be on Phonics Day 3. Now, Phonics Day 3 and Phonics Day 2 kind of can be put together because Phonics, you don't want to spend a very long time on it, but you still have to go over it. However, if you don't have the time, splitting them up into 2 days is completely up to you and your schedule and how you can do it. Also, if you need to spend more time on phonics because your students are not catching on, you know to move your time around to fluctuate that and just repeat more of the same steps and materials that I mentioned in the videos. Just don't do anything new because if your students are not catching on, they're not going to catch on if you add new activities. Just keep doing the same activities, just in a different way, if that makes sense. Hopefully I can explain that better in another video. But today's video, as you know, day 1 of phonics, you will pick one vowel sound to go over with your students. You remember the activities. You're going to pick 3 activities to go over that phonics sound with your students, and then you're done. You're done with Phonics Day 1. Phonics Day 2 is going to be exactly like Phonics Day 1. However, you're just going to move on to the next vowel. Let's say, for example, we're going to pick vowel I. So you're going to do the exact same thing as you did with vowel A, and you're going to use the exact same activities that you did with vowel A, now with vowel I. So on day 3 now, you had your 3 words that you went over with Phonics Day 1. You had cap, you had cat, and you had can. So on day 2 for I, you had pit, you had fib, and you had bib. Something like that. So your 6 words now, those are your 6 words, and now your students are going to focus on spelling those 6 words. You are going to have a spelling test with those words. Now, as you know, going to school, our spelling tests were just, the teacher called out the word, you wrote it down, bada boom, bada bing. That was it. That's literally your spelling test. You are going to call out those 6 words. Those 6 words. You're going to call those words out again, but you're going to call them out and you're going to mix them up. They're not going to be in order. And you're going to call those 6 words out. You're going to say fib, f, I, b, fib. Wait a few minutes. Can, ca, n, can. Try to go as slow as you possibly can. Try to emphasize the sounds of the alphabet so your kids can practice spelling. The whole point of this is for them to get used to spelling those words. They need to be able to spell those words. Okay, so after the spelling test, before the spelling test, what I like to do before the spelling test is to test my students' knowledge about the phonics rules. So the short A sound is ah, and the short I sound is I. So what I like to do is I like to introduce new words for reading, but not new words for spelling. Does that make sense? You're going to introduce new words for spelling to practice to see if they understand the phonics rule. However, you're not going to do it for the spelling test. That is just going to muck their brains up. Right now, they need to get used to the fact that they're having a spelling test. And with the spelling test, you can let them check on their own. I usually let my students check their own answers instead of taking it up, checking it, and giving it back, because that could be extra stress for you. You can just write the words on the board, and they can get a red crayon or pen and check their answers and write the correct answers down, and they can take it home and maybe never look at it again. Hopefully they'll take it home and try to see where they went wrong, but if not, that's less paper in your house. So like I said before, you're going to want to practice spelling the same 6 words that they learned the past 2 phonics days. And later on, they're going to practice spelling during the spelling game that I'm going to teach you. However, in another video, however, for reading, they need to read new words to make sure that they understand how to use the phonics rule. And what I do and how I do this is I just simply go on Google and I type in like whatever phonics rule that I'm looking for, word list. And then I go to images and I just click on one that looks pretty to me and I bring it up into a bigger a different web page. Now, if it's too small, some of your students may be like, oh, that's too small. And if you bring it up, it still look kind of hard to read. What I'll do is I'll just leave it and just go on to another list. I'll say, oh, this looks good. But that's not a short I sound. That's not a short I sound. It's a short I sound, but it's a different rule. So I'll just look for one and pull it up, see if that's too small. I'll keep going until I find one that looks like this. Okay, so it's the short I sound, but it's mostly focused on IN, and I don't want to focus on IN. So if you don't want to focus on just one word, one like IN, if you want to mix it up a bit, you can pull both these screens up like this. And then have one student just pick a word, be like, read this. Read this. And they'll go, if they can't read it, you'll say, okay, what's S sound? They should know it. S sound, I sound, E. N sound, N. What's this? If they still don't get it, go, okay, S sound, I sound, E. N sound, N. What's this? Keep doing that until they finally realize that they need to use the sound to read with. I do this for both. I make sure that each student get a chance to practice with both phonic sounds. And when we're done reading, that's it. That's phonics. Day 3. That's it. It's just practicing spelling the same 3 words they have learned with the phonics rules, the day 2 and day 1, and reading just random words off the screen. That's it. After that, if we have time left over in class, because you have to remember, this is additional work. You still have to go over your vocabulary and your English phrase that they learned for the day, and then they have to practice speaking it, and then depending on the level, they have to practice writing their sentences, and then they have to do phonics. So this, you're like, oh, that's not a lot. It's okay that it's not a lot. You're not going to have, if you only have an hour in class with your little ones, you're not going to have enough time. So this is perfect. If you happen to have enough time, I'm going to tell you how to do the spelling game. So the spelling game is simple. It's easy. If I have a big class, I split them up into groups depending on how many kids. If it's an odd number, one group might have more than the other. I don't stress that out. My kids will be like, oh, teacher, that group has 5 and we have 6. And I literally would say, what do you want me to do? Okay, we have 11 students. What do you want me to do? And they'll say, you play. And I'll say, no. I know English. No. 5, 6 is okay. Somebody in this team is going to have to repeat. It's okay. You're not going to die. It's okay. Okay, so what I do is I split them up into teams. If it's 2 kids in the class, they'll go against each other. If it's 5 kids in the class and they're younger, if they're younger and they struggle a lot, I will make them each compete against each other. And what you will do is you will keep points on your students. You'll write their names down and you'll mark down how many words they spell correctly. with my students, I also make them spell and read the words. Now, I will turn off my screen and I will pick words, just random words that they haven't read. And I'll go something like, okay, you ready, team one? Or Johnny, it's your turn. And I will go, p, a, t, p, a, t. And they have to write it down. Now, they'll each have both teams will have a whiteboard. And they'll be writing it down. And whoever writes down the fastest, they have to hold the whiteboard up. And whoever holds it up first, I'll acknowledge that team or that person, and then I'll say, what's that? And they have to read the word, pat. And I'll say, oh, you get the point. If they don't read it correctly, I go on to the other team. If the other team have written it correctly, and say, what's that? And they'll read it, and the other team will get the point. You have to read and spell it to get the point. And if they don't spell it correctly, I would say no, but you're close, or no, what's A sound, or no, what's U sound, or no, what's I sound, because sometimes they will confuse A and U. I don't give them the answer. I encourage them to think and try to use their brain to think of the sounds. If neither teams or nobody can get it and we spent like a good bit of minutes on the same word, I'll say, okay, class, pat, what's the spelling? Usually the whole class will know. If the class doesn't know, I'll spell it out for them, and then I will go and I will say the phonic sounds of each letter again to let them know that this is how you read, this is how you spell. I'll go p, a, t, p, a, t, pat, pat. So now the kids, I do that, and you might have to do that a lot of times for your younger students to recognize that they need to use the phonic sounds to read and to spell. However, for your students who have been learning English for 1.5 years, they will be learning double phonic sounds. Double phonic sounds like, AI and OA or whatever, those are not really phonic sounds used for spelling. They are used for reading. Yes. So, for example, night. I had a student who, like, IGH makes that I sound, and her word was night. She spelled it N-I-T-E. Technically, that's correct, but that's not night. That's not the word. So with those older students, you have to just tell them, hey, you have to just remember these words. These phonic sounds are only for reading, not for spelling. You just have to remember how to spell it. And with those students, I do not just go p-at or n-ite. I just go night, and they just have to spell the word. Or teacher or church, and they have to spell the word. So they have to know that how to spell it, because those phonic sounds are for reading. And they also, if they spell it correctly, they also still have to read it. Okay? If you have any questions, if I confuse you in any kind of way, because I don't have whiteboards to show you how I teach the spelling game, please comment below and I will try to answer it as best I can. Hopefully I could put up some example videos if my students' parents do not mind me posting them on my YouTube. And as always, be blessed, have a great night, and I hope to see you on my next video.